If they actually supported something that would empower working people and take power away from bosses, then the bosses would stop donating to their campaign.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Let's go ahead and talk about J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. Okay, you know who Donald Trump is. He's running for president for the third time. And a big part of all of his campaigns, but he's trying to emphasize this again as we get closer and closer to the election, trying to emphasize his pro-worker bona fides, which is an incredibly kind of funny thing to say about Donald Trump, a billionaire who has used undocumented labor in his projects before, who uses non-American made merchandise, who is, all of the merch that he's selling right now, the coins and all these kinds of stuff is going into his pocket rather than the campaign. I mean, lots of kind of crazy stuff with Donald Trump, but that's kind of like he tries to bill himself, and J.D. Vance too, as an advocate of working people, even of organized labor and the labor movement. They want to paint themselves as the union candidates. And to be a union candidate requires a few things. And I think in the year of our Lord 2024, it requires being in favor of the PRO Act. And if you've been a listener to this show for a while, then you know what the PRO Act is. It's an incredibly important piece of legislation that we need in this country, because labor law in this country is completely broken in favor of the bosses. I won't even tell you. Listen to this response to a question by J.D. Vance about the PRO Act and whether or not he supports it.
You asked about the PRO Act. Now, here's the problem with the PRO Act is in some ways it doubles down on a lot of the failed things that we've done instead of looking at American labor policy as something that's going to be better for the 21st century than it was in the 20th century.
Now, the problems with American labor law is Taft-Hartley. Those are the problems with American labor law, is that it constricts the power of working people to shape our futures, to decide what we do with our labor, to decide how we organize and when we organize and under what conditions we organize. The PRO Act releases many of those limits on the organization of working people. It, in effect, repeals a lot of Taft-Hartley. And the idea that it's doubling down on what is broken in American labor law is so silly. But also, he doesn't even say what he means. What does that even mean? We don't want to double down on the problems with American labor law. Well, tell me the problems that the PRO Act supposedly doubles down on, right? And that's how you know that, it's just, they are full of BS. They're full of BS, and let's listen to the rest of this.
If you actually, and look, I believe in the right of workers to unionize if they choose to do so, but private sector union participation went from about 33% when my papaw was a union steel worker, he was actually a welder, just like Bill, 33% to now it's about 7%. So we have to ask ourselves, what public policies have we enacted that have
Taft-Hartley! We enacted Taft-Hartley! That's what happened!
Driven private sector union participation so low. I don't think we double down on what's on the failed model. We got to think about a new model.
We got to think about a new model. What is the new model? He doesn't say. He doesn't say, because if he actually gives you details about a new model for labor law in the United States that would be beneficial to workers, if he did that, then the people that are donating to his campaign and Donald Trump's campaign would bail. If they actually supported something that would empower working people and take power away from bosses, then the bosses would stop donating to their campaign, right? But if he came out with an actual detailed proposal that takes away power from working people, which is almost certainly what it would do, or it would to be the absolute most charitable you could be to JD Vance and Donald Trump. If they released a policy that was neutral towards working people vis-a-vis labor law, then you would not be able to hide behind this idea that they are supportive of the working man, that they are, they want to empower working people to organize for themselves and things like this. And it's so frustrating because there are a lot of people that are falling for it, that believe that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are new Republicans that actually want to support working people. And it's just so frustrating to see people being taken for a ride in this way. J.D. Vance isn't the only person that has made the news for attacking pro-worker policies, right? That's what he was doing, is attacking the PRO Act, a very pro-worker policy. And let's actually get into the PRO Act. Let's remind people what the PRO Act does, because if you've been listening to the program for a long time, you know what it does. You have heard it, but if you haven't listened to it, if you're not a regular listener, or you haven't gone back and reviewed the PRO Act in a while, then it can, maybe you don't remember. One of the things that it does is it removes the prohibition on secondary strikes. Under Taft-Hartley, it is illegal for a union to engage in a secondary strike, to put more pressure on a company during the negotiations of another union. That's BS. Why is the government telling me when I can and can't strike? Terrible. The PRO Act does away with that. The PRO Act eliminates right to work, quote unquote, right to work laws nationwide. Right to work laws are big government getting in the way of negotiations between two private actors, the employers and the workers, right? In non, quote unquote, right to work states, which it gives you no rights and it gives you no work. In non, quote unquote, right to work states, employers and the workers have the ability to negotiate a fair share clause in their contract that says, okay, as a condition of employment, everybody that works here has to pay some sort of representation fees to the union for the services, for the good that the union does, for the services that the union has to do for all workers, whether you're members of the union or not. Gets rid of right to work laws nationwide. It prohibits employers from permanently replacing striking workers. It bans the use of offensive lockouts. It, like I said, removes the prohibitions on secondary boycott and strike activity. Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate. It says that the PRO Act codifies a joint employer standard, a strong joint employer standard, meaning that Amazon will not be able to get away with this lie that the drivers who drive Amazon trucks, who wear Amazon vests, who deliver Amazon products, who have to work according to Amazon's schedule are somehow not Amazon employees. It does away with that lie, and it says that Amazon is responsible for those employees, and those employees have all the same rights, obligations, responsibility, and privileges afforded to other true and full employees. It also bans collective and class action waivers. It says that companies can't make you waive your rights to a class action lawsuit. The PRO Act gives workers the right to file a civil action against their employer. Under the PRO Act, employers who commit violations under the National Labor Relations Act could face civil penalties, and corporate officials can be held personally liable for violation of the law. Currently, if you can believe it, there are no civil penalties for employers who violate federal labor law or the National Labor Relations Act. There are no civil penalties for violations of the National Labor Relations Act, right? Which, as you can imagine, makes it difficult to disincentivize employers from violating it. The PRO Act fixes that problem. The PRO Act prohibits employers from forcing workers to attend captive audience meetings. Under the PRO Act, workers and the NLRB set union election procedures, not the employer. And so lots of things here in the PRO Act that expand worker power, that lift restraints on worker organization, and that make it easier to organize. If you actually supported the rights of working people to organize, you supported organized labor, you believed that the balance of power is too far tilted towards the employers and there's not enough power on the side of the employees, you would support the PRO Act. Clean and simple, easy peasy. J.D. Vance and Donald Trump do not. But J.D. Vance was not the only person who was in the news for attacking working people and attacking policies that support working people. So was Donald Trump, if you can believe it. Here is Donald Trump in an interview with Bloomberg News belittling auto workers. Belittling auto workers. Listen to this.
United States, and they have a little bit, but you know what they really are? Assembly, like in South Carolina.
He's talking about automotive manufacturing plants in the United States, right? So that's the context of the conversation. He's saying automotive manufacturing plants in the United States, they get parts that were made elsewhere and they just assemble them. And listen to his evaluation of what it means to assemble a car. It's just so absurd.
United States, and they have a little bit, but you know what they really are? Assembly, like in South Carolina. But they build everything in Germany, and then they assemble it here. They get away with murder because they say, oh, yes, we're building cars. They don't build cars. They take them out of a box and they assemble them. We could have our child do it.
Can we come back?
We could have a child do it. We could have a child. Has he been talking to Hyundai? Because that's what Hyundai has been doing. Hyundai has been having children work in automotive manufacturing plants in Alabama, again, which none of our state officials seem to give a damn about. So maybe he's talking to Hyundai, this other foreign manufacturing company. And Hyundai's like, oh yeah, children work really great in our facilities in Alabama. And Trump's like, oh, that sounds good. We should just do that everywhere. We should just have children making our cars. A child could do it. A child could do it, and that would be good. I mean, just really belittling kind of stuff here. Belittling the work that automotive manufacturing workers do across the country. But this is the guy who cares about auto workers. This is the guy who's going to save auto worker jobs. The guy who thinks that auto worker jobs can be done by children easily, safely, and it's totally fine. Super easy. A child could do it, right? That's the guy who's going to save the auto worker jobs. I've got one more Trump campaign official for you here. Corey Lewandowski was talking about the Boeing strike. Asking if the president of the District Lodge 751, which is on strike against Boeing, asking if President John Holden is taking $250 a week strike pay in solidarity with his Boeing brothers and sisters walking the picket lines, or is he still collecting his $225,000 salary and benefits? With nearly $100 million in assets, the union should raise the strike pay to $750 a week. $750 a week. And now, this is deranged kind of stuff to be talking about as a political official in the middle of a strike. Again, if your concern is for the workers, you think that Boeing has been screwing over the workers as they have been. You think that the workers deserve what they're asking for. They deserve higher wages. They deserve to get their pension back. If you believe that, if you support working people, then why would you, as somebody who is not involved in the labor movement, be taking the time to only tweet criticism of the union officials instead of criticizing Boeing, who is not moving significantly on their initial offer? Why would you be doing that? The answer is that you don't actually think that the workers deserve more. They don't actually deserve the things that they are asking for in this strike. You want them to lose. You want them to lose. You want to sow division within the union so that Boeing can win, so that Boeing can break the strike. But let's just take it on face value, right? Is John Holden taking $250 a week strike pay? I don't know if he is. He probably is not. He is probably currently collecting his salary. And maybe you can say that it would be better if he didn't. And maybe I would agree with you, but it is worth noting that he, as the president, is still doing his job during the strike, and in fact, is having to do his job almost certainly much more feverishly than he was before the strike started. If you have ever had any engagement with any union during a strike, you know that union officials during a strike are incredibly, incredibly busy, like sleeping in the union office busy, okay? So maybe he should forego his salary during the strike and take $250 a week strike pay in solidarity. Maybe, but also it's worth understanding that he is working probably like a dog right now. Then let's take a look at this second claim. With nearly $100 million in assets, the union should raise strike pay to $750 a week. Does IAM 751 or the Machinists Union internationally have $100 million in assets? I don't know. I don't know what their assets are, but let's just take it at face value. $100 million in assets. If they were to have $100 million in assets and raise the strike pay to $750 a week for 33,000 striking machinists, they would run through not their strike fund, because remember, this $100 million, this is supposedly their entire assets, the whole assets of the union. They're going to liquidate their offices and everything to give people more strike pay. They would liquidate all of their assets within 4 weeks. That's how far $100 million goes if you give it out $750 a week to 33,000 people. 4 weeks. So who does it benefit? Who would it benefit to liquidate your entire assets, not just your strike fund, your entire assets in 4 weeks? Who would that benefit? It would benefit the bosses, obviously. It would benefit the bosses, and that's who Corey Lewandowski wants to win. That is my assessment of the situation. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.